what's going on with the war between Iran and the United States. And I think what's happening right now is basically on the part of Iranians, they're trying to destroy everything strategically in the region. Today, they were mostly focused on Iraq, and in the recent hours, in the last 4 to 5 hours, and before that, it was all about all these bases in the GCC countries. But let me start with what has happened in Iraq, which is of particular importance, since Iraq is a long border with Iran, and all these Kurdish groups are there, and they wanted to do some sort of invasion during the war. Before the war, it was always an Israeli plan to do something on that border. Here is one of the this is the photo of Al Harir base in the northern part of Iraq. As you see, it's burning there, and the explosion has happened because Iran started attacking all these depots that are in the American bases. They have various bases in Iraq, in the northern part of Iraq, in the Iraqi Kurdistan. So they started with that. They want to destroy everything they have in the region. If you remember, it's all started since day one. What was the Iranian strategy? Destroying all these military bases in the region. And all these weapons, everything, radars, whatever they have, they want to destroy everything. This is the main objective on the part of Iranians. And we have more footages from Iraq. One of them was these are in Iraqi Kurdistan. In Erbil, in Soleimaniye, in these cities that are so important for the Kurdish movement and those people who are against the Iranian government or trying to do something against some sort of invasion. This is the second, as you see here, and you see the secondary explosions happening. Let me just bring it back. It's better. Yeah. Here you see the secondaries. You see, they're hitting the targets. They're destroying everything that these groups have in the region. Not only these groups, it's some sort of cooperation between the United States, Israelis, and this Kurdish group. It's all together. And even we had some sort of reports coming out of Iran, the special forces invading the Iraqi Kurdistan and doing some sort of attack on Kurdish groups. At least 8 of them, commanders of Kurdish groups, were killed by this Iranian operation in Iraqi Kurdistan. Here is one of the other footage is this. The whole mountain is on fire, as you see, because of the attacks. It was a combination of missiles and drones all together attacking. The whole region is on fire. Looking at the region, even they send, they try to do something about it, but it was so the fire is so the region is vastly on fire. So it's so difficult for firefighters to do something about it. Let me bring the other footage here. This is, you see the secondaries. The hit, you see the drones and the missiles, and then the fire after that. You see how everything is on fire. And basically there is some sort of fireworks happening for them right now because all these weapons, missiles, whatever they have, and they're on fire and they're just burning down everything because they want to destroy all the weapons, all the missiles, all the drones, everything they have that can be used against Iran, doing something in the western part of Iran, doing some sort of incursion, some sort of invasion. This is the strategy on the part of Iranians. And the United States, what the United States is doing is somehow the opposite. They're basically focused on the infrastructure. It seems that they don't have the intelligence. They don't know how to hit the depots on all of these. They hit some towers, communication towers, radio towers in the southern part of Iran. But those targets were not that much important when it comes to the military power and the strategic sort of a strategy, the strategic mindset of the Iranian army and IRGC. And the other footage here, as you see here, they're trying to, this is the air defense system in Iraqi Kurdistan, CRAM, as they call it. An American air defense system is called CRAM. But as you see here, it fails to hit the target, which is a drone. And the drone hits the target here. At this particular moment, you see the explosion here. Yeah, the fight is going on in Iraqi Kurdistan. And they're trying, as I've mentioned, they're trying to destroy systematically each and everything they have. It's not just about the Iraqi Kurdistan, it's in the southern part of Iran. All these, for example, one of them was the King Faisal Air Base in Jordan. This is the footage of that. You see the whole, let me just bring it here. See, it's all destroyed. So their main focus right now is the HIMARS, depots, military gathering, all these. If they have forces there, they hit some targets in these targets in Iraqi Kurdistan. They said that some American officers were hit. They don't know how many of them, but they report that they're somehow confident that some of these officers were killed during the operation they had today. So this is what's going on. And the United States, on the other hand, as we talk, is at 3 p.m. Eastern time, East Coast of the United States. They started the new wave of attacks in the southern part of Iran. The reports show that basically they're attacking Sirik area in the southern part, all these areas close to the Persian Gulf, and mostly to the west and to the eastern part of the Strait of Hormuz. And there were reports of the Khuzestan province. Khuzestan province is in the western part of Iran. There were some attacks on the capital, the city, the capital city of the state of Khuzestan, or the province of Khuzestan. In the northern part of that city, Ahvaz, there were some targets. The United States tried to attack them. Basically military bases that the United States is trying to hit them somehow. But the operation, the United States focus is in the southern part of Iran, as we've seen in the recent hours, in the last 12 hours. They were mostly focused on the city of Bandar Abbas. City of Bandar Abbas is the navy base, and the main navy base of Iranian IRGC, or Iranian army as well. Then there are two important bases. One of them is in the north, as they call it, is in Bandar Anzali, in the northern part of Iran. The other one, which is more important, is in Bandar Abbas, as they try to destroy all these bridges that come in there, that somehow connecting the city Bandar Abbas to other regions. They want somehow to isolate the city, because the city is of particular importance when it comes to the Navy and the power of Navy and the whole case of the Strait of Hormuz, because the Navy is taking care of the Strait of Hormuz, as Donald Trump was arguing multiple times that the Navy is destroyed. They don't have anything to do, no weapons, no Navy, nothing, no boats, nothing. So that's not the case. That's why they're doing this to Bandar Abbas. I doubt that they're going to be successful, because the city is so strategic. It doesn't matter how many, if you hit all of those bridges, there is a lot of, the region is so accessible. It's not that difficult for them to resolve the issue. So they may try to do something, and let's see how effective that could be. My opinion is this is not going to be that effective to isolate the city. And the other issue is the way that Iran is responding in the region. The attacks on Kuwait, basically they attacked all the bases. They're mostly focused on the military bases. Then after that, today we've learned that they attacked some Kuwaiti bases, on Kuwaiti gathering of, I don't know, military bases belonging to Kuwaiti uh, government. But it seems that the United States, as it was mentioned by the Iranian foreign minister, that they're moving around all these missiles, all these, air defense systems, interceptors, everything they have, even forces, because most of these equipment of the United States, the U.S., whenever they use HIMARS or any sort of system they have to have American troops or American soldiers. Without having them, these countries are not able to use those weapons. It's impossible. It doesn't matter if it's in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, all these countries, they don't have those forces to use this, for example, HIMARS. So whenever they're using it, means that the United States, their forces are there and using those weapons to attack Iran. And it seems that they're still using HIMARS to attack the eastern part of Iran. That's why you see the Iranian attack intensifying today on Kuwait. But as I've mentioned before, they're attacking multiple regions in these countries. They're not mostly focused anymore on the American bases. The American bases is something like, everybody knows that those bases were hit multiple times, various times, and many times. So that it doesn't seem to me that they have any important target there anymore. That's why they're hitting other targets in Kuwait. Today it was mentioned that Iran is attacking it. The other point in Kuwait, which is somehow escalating, the attack on power, one of their major power plants, as the rationing, as we talk, the power in Kuwait because of that, because of the this power grid was hit by Iranian missile or drone. We don't know it was missile or drone, but it's out of it's out of order. It's not going to be used anymore. That's why they're rationing the electricity right now in Kuwait. The other important point was Iran hits one of these desalination plants in Kuwait. This is the first time you see, which is of particular importance. This is the first time you see Iran hitting one of these desalination plants. I think this is a sign for the whole region. They're sending a sign. You wanna continue? We're gonna do that. We're gonna do. If you continue with the infrastructures in Iran, we're gonna respond the same way. This is, some sort of signs they're sending to other countries in the region. And they're basically focused. So far, we haven't seen any Iranian attack on Saudi Arabia. The only attack was the Yemeni attack on Saudi Arabia. As you know, today Reuters reported that Pakistan is prepared if Iran decides to attack, or maybe they're thinking that if Houthis or Yemenis or Ansarullah is attacking Saudi Arabia, it's because of Iran, or Iran is supporting or forcing them to do that. That's not the case, by the way. I don't know. I don't want to confuse these two. I really believe that Ansarullah doesn't get orders from Iran, because they have their own policy. They have their own understanding. If they feel that they want to join, they're going to join. It's not going to be by force of Iran. They're not going to force. And Iran is not this way. As I know, the government in Iran, the attitude in Iran, they're not going to do this. They're never. They don't want forced, even Hezbollah or any other the Hezbollah in Iraq, the Hezbollah in Lebanon. It wasn't. The relationship between these different parts of the axis of resistance is not the way that one orders the other parts are gonna obey. This is not the way it works. They have some sort of cooperation. They have their own understanding. And even when Saudi Arabia decided to attack the international airport at the Sana International Airport, it wasn't Iran telling them you have to respond. It was their decision to respond to what Saudi Arabia did. So with the case of these reports about Pakistan going to respond to Iran, it's somehow is ridiculous for me. I don't see Pakistan getting involved in a war against Iran. They know they're not going to go that far. And if they wanted to do something, they have done it before. And since we know the nature or the reality of the relationship between Iran and Pakistan, and the way Pakistan is supporting Saudi Arabia, my understanding is the whole case with Saudi Arabia is about Israel. It's not about Iran or Yemen. They know, Pakistan knows, if something happens between Yemen and Saudi Arabia, they have nothing to do with that. You don't want to participate or cooperate with Saudi Arabia to facilitate their attacks on Yemen. They're not going to do that. Even worse, with the case of Iran, it's impossible, in my opinion. My understanding is impossible for Pakistan to do something. And this is the reality of the region. This is the complexity of the region. If that was the case, Pakistan would have done this before because of the force of the United States. We know how the military in Pakistan is connected with the United States. They're so connected. And the relationship between Pakistan and the United States is so good. We know, everybody knows that. And they have good relationship with China, with the United States, with Iran, and with Saudi Arabia. But they're not going to get involved in this war. This is the recipe for disaster when it comes to Pakistan. So whenever you see Reuters or somebody talks this way or try to manipulate, I would say these are basically Israeli propaganda and part of the propaganda machine. Reuters, I remember when there was a protest in Iran it was 2009, 10, if I'm not mistaken. The Reuters came out and said, and how many casualties, this and that, giving the numbers. Some sources within Iran gave us, no, they're basically playing the game for Israel. Whenever, it's not always the same. No, I don't want to, say everything they say. The problem is when it comes to Iran and these sort of sensitive issues, for example, the case of Pakistan, they basically follow the line of Israel. They want to manipulate. And I even asked one of the, ask Iranians, how do you feel about this article in Reuters? They said, it doesn't matter. Iran doesn't care about what Reuters is talking about, and that's not going to be the case for Iran and Pakistan. They're not going to fight each other. This is the understanding. Even, we had Iranian attack on the border, on the Pakistani soil, hitting the targets, hitting these terrorists in the Pakistani on their side of the border. But it was never a response. They have the Pakistani government understands the Iranian concern. They know, they understand each other. They're communicating so good and basically talking to each other, communicating. So there is no misunderstanding between the two sides, just let alone they're getting involved to support Saudi Arabia attacking Yemen. That's impossible. Yemen knows how to fight. And it shows, you remember how the United States, together with Saudi Arabia and UAE, they tried to force Yemenis. I'm talking about the Ansarullah, because they had these forces in Yemen and to help them as well. So it wasn't just Ansarullah against Saudi Arabia, United States, and UAE. Some people in Yemen were against Ansarullah as well, but they couldn't defeat Ansarullah. Today, those days are gone. Today, they're much more powerful. That's why you see when the United States comes to the Red Sea, you see there's somehow Donald Trump decides to, finally say, Yemenis capitulated. I'm going to get out of this region because they're not going to do anything and with American ships, and we're not going to have any sort of problem. So we're going to get out of it. The reason I'm mentioning all of these stories because you have to understand that Yemen decides based on its own decision, based on its own mind, their own calculations. It's not dependent on the way that Iran is forcing them or somebody, is telling them doing this and that. No, they know their capabilities. They know how they're going to respond to Saudi Arabia or any other aggression in the region. This is their policy, and they're sovereign nations. And so this is what's going on with Yemen and with Saudi Arabia. But what is important is that Iran is not attacking Saudi Arabia. What is behind the scene? It seems that the communication is going on. And Saudi Arabia basically came to this understanding, despite all of these reports by Axios, by all of these outlets, somehow trying to spread the Israeli propaganda and saying that Saudi Arabia is doing this and that and cooperating and asking the United States, we're going to pay, come here and do this. No, the reality of the region, unfortunately, is that GCC countries, for such a long time, their whole economic system is so much connected, it's so much dependent on the United States that they cannot have a sovereign decision about the current situation. If that was the case, they would have never used their tankers, because this war, the second, after signing the MOU, the way that the United States tried to manipulate the southern part of the Strait of Hormuz was basically based on this concept that we're gonna penetrate this strait in using who was using its tankers to penetrate those Iranian control over the strait. It was Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. These countries, they're not happy about what's going on. They were not happy since this war started. Maybe in the initial days of the war, they were somehow deceived by the Trump administration. They were thinking, literally, they were thinking that the United States is going to bring down the government, regime change, and it's everything going to be okay in 4 days, 5 days, max in a week. But that wasn't the case. And then you see during the war, there's so much concern about what's going on with the war. The strait is closed right now as we talk. How are they going to benefit from the strait? Nothing is getting in and out. Some little movements, as we've seen today, but that's not significant. That's not important for them. That's not going to save their economy. They're not benefiting from this situation that they're in, but they don't have that power, that sort of, character to come out and saying that, no, I don't want to cooperate in this war. They have to cooperate. They have to help the Trump administration. That's why they were forced. They were forced to use their tankers because no other countries would do that. None of it. It was all about GCC countries doing that. Their tankers were hit. And today we've learned another two tankers where they were trying to pass through the southern part of the strait. It seems that Iran mined the southern part of the strait, close to the Omani border. They were mining, and right now there's a lot. They have a lot of mines in that region, in those routes in the southern part of the strait. So 2 oil tankers were hit, or they're on fire right now as we talk. Just moments ago, 20 minutes ago, it came out that those tankers are on fire. So the whole strait, all these routes in the Strait of Hormuz are mined right now. the only way that they can use this trade is going to be through the designated routes by IRGC and Iranians.